right, welcome back, Day Camp friends, to episode 8, Crazy 8, ladies and gentlemen, of the Day Camp Pod. I'm Andy Puttin, director of Liberty Lake in the Philadelphia suburbs of New Jersey.
I'm Sam Thompson. I'm from Crystal Lake Park District, northwest of Chicago.
I'm Ehren from Camp Robin Hood, just outside of Toronto, Canada.
And we are Day Camp professionals joining forces to provide a forum for Day Camp pros to share ideas and best practices across North America and beyond. For today's episode, we'll be discussing parent and family visitation with the help of my buddy H. And we'll have him introduce himself in a second. We'll be focusing specifically on visits right before camp season and during the season, like when they're coming to visit camp kind of thing. And we'll be sharing our thoughts after I tell you that this Day Camp podcast is brought to you by CRS, Commercial Recreation Specialists, the fine purveyors of the best waterfront, and splash pad products in the world. Check out their website at crs4rec.com. CRS is serious about fun. And this Go Camp Pro podcast. We got all these tongue twisters, by the way, right? CRS and Go Camp Pro is sponsored by the American Camp Association, New York and New Jersey, and a much easier one. Dedicated to preserving, promoting, and enhancing the quality of the summer camp experience, their professional development includes the one and only Tri-State Camp Conference, which I will be speaking at 3 sessions. Come and see it. All about day camps, as well as other conferences that can be found at aca-nynj.org. So I guess first, I want to introduce my man H here, who if we're sort of drawing like day camps like in corners of America, H has got us covered now. We're to the southwest. You're our first southeast guy.
Woo!
Would you consider yourself southeast?
Very much so. We are. Our camp is called Triple C Camp, and it's located in Charlottesville, Virginia, about 2 hours from Washington, D.C. in Virginia Beach. And you might have heard a little something about us in the news recently, in the last couple of years.
Yeah, no doubt. Great college there.
University of Virginia, go Hoos go.
Yeah.
In addition to
basketball team is very good. I'm pulling for your basketball team this year. This is the year for them.
We're hoping. In addition to day camp, we're very fortunate that we get to run year-round programs at our property as well, being a little bit more in the south. So that does present some great options and opportunities in regards to people being on our site more year-round.
So how long have you and your wife been there?
We've owned our camp for 20 years. And this is our 20th year celebration in 2019. We were fortunate to purchase the camp from some sellers that had enough of the camping industry that had not been in it before. And my wife and I had both directed day and overnight camps in the Midwest before having the opportunity to purchase Triple C Camp.
That's awesome. So what would you say is unique about Triple C Camp compared to other day camps?
Right, and kind of mentioned in my previous sentence, we're actually built on an overnight camp property. The Baptist Church of Richmond built our property in 1951, and us coming in 1999 had the opportunity to enhance over the course of the last 20 years. And it being an overnight camp initially means that we have cabins, we have a proper dining hall that's very similar to the camps up in the Northeast. We have an art studio, we have a rec hall, we have a sports pavilion. So things that are very common in our friends' overnight camps up in the Northeast, we're fortunate to have at our day camp 5 miles outside of Charlottesville, Virginia.
Wow, that is pretty amazing to have that. First of all, to be so close to Charlottesville, Virginia, which is an awesome town, and then also to have all those facilities dropped into your lap. I just can't believe that 1999 was 20 years ago.
Crazy, right? So yeah, going into our 20th summer. And I will say, and anybody who's gone through the process of buying or operating their own camp, it doesn't just get dropped in your lap. There is quite a bit of exercise and work that needs to go along with it. Just have a conversation like about septic systems, right, Andy? There's just stuff, especially when new owners come in. And so a different podcast for a different day. However, very important to make sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's. And know where the people is. Yeah. New owner of a property.
Yeah, it's true. And now H, so recently you've in the summer and leading up to the summer, you've been doing consulting stuff too, haven't you?
I have. I started a business 2 years ago called Camp Coach, and I've been fortunate where in addition to helping out at Triple C, We've got some fantastic staff that have covered and taken my space, and I get the opportunity to travel throughout the country. I've worked with about 20 different programs, some sports camps, some traditional day and overnight camps, private schools. I've even worked with some karate clubs, which has been really fantastic because there's a lot of karate programs where they teach families to work together. So you got kids who are super excited, but they got the opportunity to work on their skills with their parents. And very often, these outside entities in the sports world or otherwise, they have a lot of experience perhaps with the skills, something like karate or even a baseball program or a basketball program, but the child development and the relationship building with the families may not be their expertise. So that's an area where I really get to help out.
That's great. Just make sure you drop off an American Camp Association accreditation form as you leave.
Always.
So, this is our first podcast without Michael Brownwine for a couple of episodes. So I'm just going to cite his name because I met H the same way I met Sam, which was at Michael Brownwine's Day Camp Cafe at ACA National. And just in a few seconds of sitting at his table, realized that this guy's got a ton of information and loves to share, just like the rest of us on this podcast here. So welcome to the family, H.
Thank you very much.
Many times.
Michael. I appreciate you asking me.
All right. So I was having a conversation at a camp fair. We all love camp fairs, don't we? With another camp director, and we were talking about summer visitations, and he was telling me what he did, which is what I did when I first started camps 25 years ago and despised it. And I was like, wow, there's lots of different ways to skin this cat. And I bet it would be a pretty cool podcast. So I always like starting when we talk about a topic of like, what is the purpose of bringing these parents to your facility, specifically now, like during the summer, right? Like camp has started, and for me, speaking for me, you all have your chance. Like, I think it's important to give them a chance to sort of an affirming opportunity for them to go, wow, I really made the right choice in that. Look at this place. This place is pretty awesome, and the people here are great and all that, and give them a warm, fuzzy feeling. And also give them an opportunity to meet the staff that takes care of their children, right? And giving them an opportunity to see the facility in its summer glory. I was just telling these guys I had a huge open house yesterday, and my camp right now, the grass is yellow. There's no leaves on the trees. It is about as ugly as my camp can be. I wish it would snow a few inches to just give it a nice little white glisten, because right now it is just but ugly. So so having parents come back, that signed up this weekend, when they come in the summer and everything's green and beautiful and vibrant, they're like, wow, this place actually is as nice as the 4-color printing job stuff I saw. I also think it's important to have a fun, interactive experience for the parents, so they're not just walking around, but they could actually do some things. And also, if you're bringing parents, and I know it's not cheap, but I always think it's important to feed them well, and have that be a part of the thing too. So what I've done, what I've seen, what I've settled on a little bit. So when I first got into day camping in the early 90s, the sort of model that most of the high quality day camps in the Northeast was doing is this day visiting where you said, okay, the second grade boys are going to be visited, or maybe the first and second grade boys are going to be visited today. And the parents are going to come in at 10 o'clock and they're going to leave at 1, kind of thing. So you're going to have this group of visitors come, and they're going to get like escorted around following their kids, right? And as you could imagine, if you've never done this at your own place, it is a pretty awkward situation, having all those parents sitting there like they're at the zoo, watching them during the camp day. You're trying to run a normal camp day and these parents are there. And then hearing from the parents in this day and age, or especially in our neighborhood where most parents work, mom and dad, it becomes a burden on them to leave work and have to come. And if they don't come, then they will be, their kids are going to be very upset with them, and that puts them in a tough situation. So that's one of the reasons that I moved away from it when I started my own place. But I know that there's still a lot of camps that do this and swear by it, but I also think that they don't realize what other things that they can do, which I want to sort of open their eyes to on this podcast a little bit. Another thing that I've done and that I've seen other camps do is simulated camp in the evening. So camp ends, the buses go home, but this one division, let's say, stays. And then the parents come back and they have this evening, when I say simulated camp, we would create a schedule. So we'd say, okay, at 5 o'clock, this freshman boys group is going to have swim. Literally, we would simulate instructional swim. And then they're going to go to dinner, which would be like lunch. And then they're going to go to baseball. And then they're going to go to art. And then the evening ends. And we would write these ridiculous schedules for everybody and simulate the camp experience. I remember, and then when we did sports, we would let the parents play. I remember when I was at North Shore Day Camp, LL Cool J sent his kids to our camp. And he came up, you know, when his little kid was like 7 years old, and he came up in a softball game and had to hit the ball like 400 feet, like over everybody's kids, just to be so cool. OLL, so funny. So anyway, so the evening thing, an interesting thing about the evening thing. So I have friends at a camp in New Jersey who have been doing this since day one, since they opened the place. They literally do like 8 of these. Like it's scattered throughout the, like, okay, this week we have the freshman boys and next week we have the sophomore girls, and it's just an ongoing thing, and the staff, you know, are not so happy about it. And I don't even know if the parents are either, but they do it. And that's just the way that they've been doing it there. I know that when Ramapo, up in on the edge of New York and New Jersey, when they would do their evening visiting thing, they did a very interesting thing. First of all, they got kids out of Manhattan, and they actually ran a charter bus or 2 or 3, I don't know, out of Manhattan and chartered the parents to the camp, which is nice because the traffic is really bad. And then when the parents arrived, they fed the parents their own dinner without the kids. And the logic of that is, well, these poor parents, they always have to eat dinner with the kids, and tell them, put that down, don't do that. And they actually had a nice dinner, and they like gave them a nice spread, and they were like supposedly really thankful for that. And then they met up with their kids. So I thought that was an interesting thing I didn't usually see. One thing I can tell you is that a lot of camps that have moved away from these simulated camp or during day visitings, one of the things that they've done, with the advice of the camps who have done it, is do an open visiting, where you literally could tell the parents, you could come anytime, because guess what? They don't come, right? Open visiting is a great invitation. It makes it feel like it's not an issue. It's a lot better than telling parents you're not allowed to come, right? Because then they think you're hiding something. So when you say, yeah, you could come anytime, just call and blah, blah, blah. So we do that at my camp, but I also discourage them at the same time and say, you know, just realize that if you come, your child's probably going to be upset when you leave. The other kids in the group are going to wonder why their parents aren't there. So we really, you know, wish you wouldn't come, but you certainly can come. And that's worked great, I have to tell you. You have very few visitors during the camp day. So the thing that we've settled on at my camp is a family night. It's just one night from 5 to like 8 p.m. And it's open to any kids who have been at camp that summer. They don't have to have been there that week, right? And their families, and frankly, their neighbors and their grandparents. I could care less, bring them all, right? And we have this big blowout night with a blowout barbecue. I open up about half of the activities at camp, you know, things like archery, basketball, boating, you know, stuff like that the parents can do with the kids. I open up my zip line for just parents to go zipping. So I tell them they can wear their sneakers and they can go zipping. They love that. And we do like a fast pass kind of thing like they do at Disney. So they come back at a certain time. So we make sure that they get on. And we do our big musical that night. The performance for the parents is that night. So they don't have to come during the camp day and get off of work. They can go that night and see the musical performance. And then we do our longevity things like the 5-year jacket or 10-year plaque. We do a 15-year thing now because we're in year 18. So, and
we have to do that in 3 hours.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on in 3 hours. But all the things I mentioned, not everybody's doing. You know, it's all split up and sort of scattered. And you know, it makes it easy for my staff to know that one night, that's it. Like, block this night out, and you're going to work your butt off. You're going to stay in camp, and you're here till 8 o'clock, and you're going to be toast the next day. But it's just one night, you know. And I think that they do appreciate that. All right. So anyway, I am handing it off to H first, and then we'll go to Ehren and Sam. So
well, thanks. I appreciate that. I feel like we could have spent the podcast talking about your event and asking you all kinds of questions, because there's a lot of
well, you certainly can. Yeah,
a lot of things you got going on. Well, similar to Andy, we started and bought our camp just recently, just before he had started his, and took a lot of information and learning, not just from day camp people, but from my overnight camp experiences as well, which really comes to building that rapport and that relationship with the family. I used to do many home visits when I was directing overnight camping. And in our day camp world, we're fortunate where we get the families to come to our camp and to our property. And as mentioned earlier, being from the Southeast, it's a little bit warmer for us throughout the course of the late winter and spring, where people want to come out and visit. So we encourage as many families to come and visit the property as much as they can throughout the spring, because that really puts the kids in a similar situation to the parents. They're afraid of the unknown, especially a first-time camper, and we want to give them the opportunity to get as comfortable as they can at camp. So when they get off the bus for the first time, the parents are dropping them off the first time, they're comfortable. Also, it gets the parents to a comfort level of the camp and the property, so that when summer comes, they're not so interested in visiting the camp and visiting the property. They've got the ideas of what we're doing, how we're doing them. We do a open house in the springtime where families can come, returning and new. We usually wind up with about 50 to 100 families that come to that event. We see a little over 1,000 children during the course of the summer. So that's a good number for us at an open house. And then we have a family day right when camp starts, where they have the opportunity to come and meet exactly who their counselor will be during the summer. From there, we really give the families the opportunity to come and visit our property anytime that you want. And we get almost no visitation, as Andy mentioned. What we do get is people who want to see their child ride horses, or somebody who wants to see their child in swim lessons, or just wants to come and have lunch with their child one day. And what we do in those situations is at lunch, we ask, because we provide lunch and snacks for the kids, we ask the parent to come and bring their own lunch, and they can sit with their child and then make their way. If they want to see their child swim, they can do that. If they want to see their child ride horses or the other activities, we are supportive in them coming to visit. Of course, they get welcomed when they arrive to camp. So important that you have a really efficient check-in procedure and visitation, of course, badges and sign-ins. But also, when the parents are watching their child's group, sometimes a parent doesn't want their child to see them. So they're kind of sneaking around a tree or around a corner, but they've got that bright orange visitor tag on that makes sure that they're not a creeper looking after one of the kids of the group. So I think it's really important for our day camp programming, where parents can be so much more involved than our overnight camp situations, is that we build a rapport and a relationship, and we take the opportunity, whether it's personalized tours or it's building that rapport and relationship with the parents through behavior management or other things that are happening, is that you partner with the parents to grow and develop the children. And giving a tour or spending time with them on the property really helps build, grow, and develop that relationship.
Yeah, that's great. Similar to you with the before camp thing, we do a meet the counselors night, right? We call it the parent camper meet and greet, where they get to meet their actual counselor. We do that just the week before camp starts. And then prior to that, I do a new parent orientation, where I just talk for 2 hours to any new parents that want to listen to me talk about all the things they never even thought about. Oh, funny aside, before we go to
you have the energy for that, Andy? Come on.
Oh yeah, actually I'm going to YouTube it this year, so you'll be able to watch it this year. But I just have to tell you this thing out of the blue. I know this is a little out, but this is so funny. As a day camp, this is a day camp thing, right? So we had a tour yesterday. And I gave this parent a tour, and they were into it. And she's asking me very hard questions. I think she worked for an insurance company or something. And then I'm like, okay, is there anything else? Any other questions? And she looks at me and says, "What's the worst thing that ever happened here?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "What's the worst accident that's ever happened to a child out of your camp?" And I was like, what a grim question. I was like,
and are you going to share?
I said she should meet my wife, because that's what too. And well, I told her that we haven't had that many accidents with kids. It's actually staff. We had tons of workman's comp claims last year. I got way more scary stories about that. And then I explained also that our staff gets hurt a lot more because, they're worried about the kids, and they don't think about themselves.
It was a nice redirect.
Thank you. Thank you. Years of practice, H.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I just thought that was a funny question. All right, so let's toss it off to Canada.
Great. I was prepared to go after Sam, but thank you for thank you for conceding your spot to me, Sam.
Why not?
So for us, some of the things that that were said by H and Andy are similar to what we do. So we do structure a couple of June open houses at Robin Hood. So basically in the first week of June on a weekend, we typically have an opportunity to meet mostly the new families, but we open it up to everyone, and we welcome everyone to our camp. But we focus on those new families, those ones that are nervous and their kids are getting anxious about the experience. So we really gear that day towards new parents and kids. And there was a time when we did something similar to what you mentioned, Andy, where we took the parents aside and we gave them an orientation for an hour, and we separated the kids and did sort of kid-focused tours with counselors and fun activities, roasting marshmallows and that kind of thing. We've turned it more into a family together kind of tour. So we do have structured tours, but we have the option also of people coming and just being comfortable on their own and going to a few of the areas that we have open, and we highlight areas and point them in the right direction so that they can meet some of our best staff on that day. And we don't have all of our staff there, obviously. A lot of them haven't, not a lot, but many of them haven't been hired yet because we're still in that process at the beginning of June. So we have our senior staff leading those programs, our activity heads, that kind of thing, who are available to answer questions and and interact with kids in all the different activity areas, which is a really.
When does this take place?
So this is the first week in June, every year.
So this is how many weeks prior to your first day of camp?
So this is approximately 4 weeks before.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
it's pretty elaborate. It's pretty elaborate. I mean, are you worried you might have like 500 kids show up and
so it's interesting because we played around, and at one time we thought maybe we could turn this day into kind of a marketing opportunity and really advertise it in the media, and we incorporated at one point a craft show into it. So we had this lady who was running craft shows locally already, and we said, you take some space here and we can cross promote and have you come and and we can sort of enjoy the fruits of each other's labors. But that ended up turning into the intimacy was lost, and the ability to talk to parents and give that level of comfort with those new families it's kind of lacking on with that structure. So we went away from that after doing it two times. We tried that and went back to our to what we do, and it's been a great PR piece. We do feed them like was mentioned. We have a nice barbecue, but we really structure that day. As much as I'm saying that activities are open and people can move around, it's really meant to be fairly structured and fairly geared towards information sharing and really intimate conversations with the new parents and the kids as well. The kids get we bring a number of staff on the tours so that the kids and parents get the attention that we want to give them. And the director team always is always available at the beginning or the end of the tour to meet the group and answer questions and follow up with anything that was missed. So it's a very important day for us, and it's been a great part of our program. So that's our first real face-to-face opportunity with our families. Then we do another open house before camp starts. We do it during pre-camp, so we actually dedicate the last section of pre-camp, the final day of pre-camp. We have 2 hours set aside where parents come meet the counselors after they're freshly trained and they're well versed in the policies and processes of camp at that point, and excited to meet the kids and do something, and actually dive into their responsibilities for the summer by, actually seeing the kids and having that connection. So that day is focused on that, and also for parents to finally see, the camp with, with green grass and water in the pools and everything, ready to go for the first day of camp, so they can feel good, especially those ones that are first-time families that come in June, at the beginning of June, and see, lots of work going on and not, things not looking the way they should. So that kind of partnership that kind of relationship between those two open houses for new families has been an important important piece, because they usually are at both, so that they can get that get that comfort. And typically that second open house is really a full house. Like, we get almost I would say 50% of the kids that are going to be with us for the summer and their families will join us for that day. We have to get police to direct traffic, and lots of staff, doing different jobs around camp. But it's exciting. Everyone really enjoys, the fact that it's, the camp is around the corner, literally 2 days away, 3 days away, depending on the year. And it's a great day. We do lots of things for families to give them, a chance to eat and see the site and try activities. Most activities are open, and, we have a lot of fun that day, and lots of good conversations, clothing items that kids order, things like that. We hand out notes and paperwork that needs to be followed up on, that kind of thing. We follow up with people during that program, but it's a less formal structure than the earlier one. And then finally, the last thing we do is a June. Sorry, not a June. We do a July and an August family night, similar to what you mentioned, Andy. So something cool where it's not structured, but everything's open. All activity areas are open. Kids can show their parents how high they climbed on the wall, how many times they canoed around the pond, where they, what they're learning at archery, all that stuff. So that's a showcase and an opportunity to have fun at camp. But I liked some of the things you were saying, Andy, where you even incorporated more into it. Like, you had everything going on, and we, that's exciting to me, the way that you do the camp play and the, all those different things on that night. It's already, there's already a lot of buzz that we have around it, but it could be, could be some cool other elements to add in there.
Yeah. Well, I think the way I look at it is that parents have limited time, right? So if you're going to come out to your place, try to get as much in as you can, because especially, we have some kids that live an hour away. It's just not convenient for them to come out. I do try to squeeze it in. There's no doubt about it. All right, Sam, you're up. We're moving to the Midwest.
So we're unique in the fact that we're in a public park. So park district camps, you're always in the public eye. They can be there anytime they want, whether you tell them they can or not, but we always tell them you're welcome anytime. We also eat at the beach, where they have concessions. So a lot of parents will stop by and eat lunch with their child, just buy it at the concessions, and have lunch with them. I would say the 2 times we get the most parents are our cardboard boat regatta. They come to film that, and then our talent show. So we schedule them over lunch hours so that parents can get away from work, see multiple age kids doing the program, and then get back to work. Now there's a downside to this. We have had a mom a few years ago who brought her lounge chair and sat at the beach all day to watch our male counselors in the water with their shirts off. So I actually had to buy tank tops for all my staff so they weren't objectified by the parents who were coming there to just gaze all day. They also will send their neighbors, friends. We'll get a call. My neighbor was there and she didn't see my child do this. So you're really in the public eye. We also have to train our staff on what kind of attention is not appropriate, when to approach a public person that seems to be paying too much attention to our children. But we also do meet the counselor before camp and an open house. We usually don't do any night things except for Pee Wee Camp. We'll do a campfire with the parents at night because they don't have an overnight. So they'll do that with the parents. So that's how we roll.
It's interesting. Hey, look, that's why you're on this podcast, Sam, to show the reality of fact. Most camps, your camp is actually like most camps. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, to have your camp in a public place, yeah, it's hard to put any parameters on there. They're taxpayers, you know.
And I do tell them that if they come, please make sure your child knows he should still continue to enjoy the activities, because sometimes when the parents come, everything just stops for that child, and then that's not what the parent came for, and that's not what the child wants. So
right. So the next thing I was going to go into was when parents drop in, right? And I think that that of course you have the most unique situation like that. But what if, since you're in a public park, what about stranger danger? How do you guys deal with that?
During training, we talked to the staff about if somebody has not introduced themselves to you and they seem to be watching your group, then you need to approach them and say, "Can I help you?" And sometimes it'll be someone saying, "Oh, I was just interested in registering." And then they can give them a quick, this is where the office is and whatever. Sometimes they'll just say, "I didn't know what was going on." But we have had to call the park police to come several times for people who were either intoxicated or creepy, that were spending too much time. My staff has gotten really good at picking out. I had somebody who at one location visited with a child. So we thought, okay, they're just looking to register. Well, then the next day she was there without any children. And that's when we called the police. So.
But what kind of rights do you guys have at your camp in regards to the area you're at? Like, are you allowed to say, this is our area for the, until 3 o'clock kind of thing? Or
nope.
No.
Nope, we're just all mixed in.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Look, there's lots of camps that run programs on colleges or at private schools, right, that deal with the same thing. I knew a camp that was at a private school that had, 500 camp kids and 500 kids that are there for summer school. And they were running simultaneously and dealt with it. All right, so I got a question for you, Ehren. So if I'm a camp parent and I'm interested in signing my kid up, right? And I say to you, so what if I just want to come by like on Thursday morning kind of thing and see how it's going? What do you say?
So for us, we typically we encourage scheduled visits for new families. I don't know. Are you asking if it's a camp parent of somebody who's currently registered or somebody?
Doesn't matter. Currently registered or going to register. Like my kid's going to be at camp.
For sure.
I want to come and see them or whatever. Like what do you say?
So for us, typically, like the idea of a parent coming to see their kids at camp, it makes us nervous, because not because we're worried about what they're going to see, but because of the way the child reacts. And we do have some young kids at our camp too that are just turned 4 years old. Some of our kids, and so if a child has a parent who's coming to visit, and the other kids in the group notice that that Johnny's mom came to visit, and my mom's not taking the time to come see me.
We're singing the same song.
Right, it really creates a disruption to the group, and also the kid who's being visited wouldn't feel as comfortable. And we do have parents on site. Sometimes we have a mom and tot program that we operate, and some of the parents do, even though we really try to keep them in a separate area, they do cross over and try to visit their children, and so it's really discouraged, and the only time a parent would be able to really see their kid during the camp day would be if they were part of that parent and tot program. but we don't want, we want to discourage it we do discourage it for that reason that I mentioned, among other safety, safety issues, and the potential for the kid to want to go home with the parent, and the parent to feel comfortable, taking that kid home without telling us, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So H.
Yes, sir.
The triple C.
Yes, sir.
By the way, I have to tell you, it's so confusing to me because your name is H, and you work at triple C.
I do.
And I know these people that work at this camp called Double H.
Right.
So every time I'm about to address either you or your camp, I get H's and C's.
And the wrestler, there's a professional wrestler, Triple H.
Correct. That just adds to the confusion as well.
See, I say it adds to the fun, Andy.
Did you ever consider changing the name to Triple H instead of Triple C?
It was discussed.
It was discussed. Yeah. Did you ever consider bringing Triple H in for color war break and
also
spending
been discussed?
$500,000?
Yes, that was what my wife said. No.
So my question for you at Triple C.
Yes, sir.
Is, do you have visitors coming in during the camp day? Do you give tours? Do you like how do you guys?
And I'm really glad that you asked this question, because I think it's important. We love to give those one-on-one personal tours. We'll do that during summer camp. We will also give people the opportunity to schedule that private personal tour with us. We usually try and do it mid-morning or mid-afternoon, just try and stay away from transportation times and lunch times, which we find to be the most hectic times. And we're able to peel a staff member off mid-morning or mid-afternoon for scheduled tours that can give a great tour to a family, whether they're already registered or they're considering registering still during the summer, if we have a space available for them. Sometimes we'll have people show up, just like you were describing. And again, as long as they've checked in at our office properly, we give them a visitor badge, they sign in, they've shown their ID, and we do not have a staff member available, we'll give them a camp map. They're wearing visitor badges and they have the opportunity to walk around the camp. And then a couple of our directors and program staff who are around know that they are touring around on their own, and they try and pop in and where they are on the tour and help and support them during their own self-guided tour with a camp map. Does that make sense?
It does, but it also makes sense that you're from the South, because you guys are more cordial than everybody else. And I think you just proved it there, because I don't think there's too many other camps that would give people a name badge and a map and say, go at it, right? Yeah. But look, whatever works for you, that's
and I think also line of sight is important, in regards to your property and the way that things are set up, because you want to make sure that you feel safe. You want to make sure that your staff and the kids feel safe out on the property. So, you get the mom with 2 or 3 kids walking around, might be different than maybe a different set of people that were walking the property. So,
sure.
We certainly use our best judgment there, but you're right. Southern hospitality is a real thing.
Yeah.
Where people are accommodating. They're also very last minute in the South. Very slow paced, late to register. So that customer service without much organization and planning, helps build the brand and build the business.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So at Liberty Lake, we tag them, right? And then they have to be escorted the whole time is the way we want it.
I respect it.
And it's not easy. It's not easy. And very often I'm the one giving the tours if it's for a planned scheduled camp tour. And it's funny, there are many day camps out there that tell their parents there's no visiting and they don't do tours. Like, this is our own little private secret world, and we have our walls going around it, and that's it.
I think it's a missed opportunity, and it also makes people feel like you're hiding something.
In this day and age, I think it's an old school way of thinking. You know what I mean? I think that in this day and age, Ehren, I'm gonna vouch for the millennials. All right? I think that's just, it's transparency. That's the word they use all the time. Right? Transparency.
Yeah.
Hide, then who cares? And Jed Buck, another one of my camp director friends that became a consultant like H,
sure.
He used to give tours all the time, and when people would say that he was crazy, he'd say, I don't understand. What do I do all day anyway? I walk around, I say hi to the kids and pick up garbage, so I'm going to do it with a couple parents with me.
I agree. And it's great PR, because like Andy, I've been on a tour with you around your camp. you know 80 to 90% of the kids' names at first glance.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a great impression with the number of campers that you have around your property, let alone you get the opportunity to make this walk around and you're looking at everything through that parent's eyes. It makes you a sharper camp director.
Yeah. And Andy, I think what you said about the fact that that you give those tours yourself whenever you can, I think that's a great point, because if you're going to give a tour, you want to do it the right way. You want to have the right people on it, and even if you yourself are not, if you're not available yourself to give the tour for us, and we do have some tours during the camp day I didn't mention, and we will schedule them. We try our best if one of the directors isn't available, for that person to meet the parent either at the very beginning of the tour or at the end of the tour, so that they can put a face to the name.
Yeah. Well, two things. I think I give the tours also because I have wonderful peripheral vision, and if I see a camp staffer that's like sleeping potentially, I could veer away from that, And secondly, one of my highlights of every single day camp podcast we have is when Ehren throws in a boot. I'm all about the boot. All right.
I don't even hear it. It sounds normal.
Of course you don't hear it. How would you hear it? It's natural. I grew up in New Jersey. I listened to Bob and Doug McKenzie when I was a kid, and I'm all about it. Right?
I think it's important too.
You know it, right?
I know, eh?
I think it's important too when you're doing the tour that the parents see that you know the kids' names and they're comfortable coming and saying hello to you or walking up to you, because they know the relationships are there, that you're going to build relationships. And I do apologize for that asthma attack. Sorry.
That's all right.
Like a coughing attack on a podcast, but.
No, it's okay. So sort of in summary of the whole visiting thing, like the group visiting thing, especially during camp, even though they're a hardship on many, is that they are so cathartic in a positive energy way. I've had so many parents that are just, you have to imagine the energy, the positive energy of that affirming thing with hundreds of families around together with all your amazing staff, right? And all these beautiful kids. Like, it just makes a cathartic, positive feel. And again, for camps that don't do something like this, it is a missed opportunity. And for the camps that are doing these little, okay, it's the second grade boys today and the fifth grade girls tomorrow kind of thing, even though it's a very little controlled thing, it doesn't give you that opportunity to have all these people together looking at each other going, wow. And I'm not just talking about looking in the parking lot and saying, oh, look at all the nice cars either. I'm talking about like all these people, look at all the, like, we must be doing the right thing here with our kids, because look at all these people, look at all these happy folks.
It shows a great level of organization as well, because it's not just happy folks in a happy place. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot to the camp day every day. Then you're going to put on a show for the parents. In addition to that, it's a tremendous thing to take on. So make sure that you are organized and prepared and have plenty of staff.
Yeah, and if anybody wants my outlines, you can always email me, andy@libertylake.com. I'll send you some outlines of the kind of thing I do for my family night. I'm happy to share. But yeah, that organization thing, I mean, how many times, day camp friends, do we find yourself somewhere and you look at somebody and say, man, obviously these people are not day camp directors, because look at the lines here. Look, how come they're not using two sides to get the food? Like, come on, like basic stuff, right? Like, we just have it in us to do this. It's true, and parents do get blown away by it. We had a, family night. Of course, my camp is outdoors, all right, very weather dependent. So a couple of years ago, we had like, when these big, nasty, dark, crazy rain and thunderstorms come through, they usually move, right? They're moving at like 12 miles an hour through your neighborhood. Well, this one moved in at 12 miles an hour and then sat on top of us for 2 hours. And it was a nightmare, basically, with, hundreds of people there and all. And, there were some parents that were disappointed that, we weren't able to helicopter them back to their homes and things like that. But all in all, the feedback we got was, wow, did we get to see your staff in action and get to see how they immediately got up on the picnic tables and started leading songs and distracting the kids and getting into it. And it really turned lemons into lemonade in front of everybody, even though I still should probably go to therapy for it, because it was that rough for me. But the feedback I get from parents to this day is that, man, that was one of the most magical evenings that I've ever had.
Isn't it beautiful when a plan comes into place the way you meant it to? I mean, just with my busing, when we get off and, several groups have to get on different buses to go to extended time. And so 6 buses pull in, and within 3 minutes, 2 bus loads are full and the rest are getting picked up, and everything worked right. It's just a beautiful moment as a camp director to see your plans work out the way they should have.
Yeah. It's magic to me every time on the first day of camp when I see all those buses roll in. It blows me away. Yeah, it is a lot. All right, so we are going to move on, folks, to the day camp program tip of the week. So H, if you haven't prepared, we can go last. But basically, we are going to come up with a program idea, activity, special event that could be used this summer for minimal cost, right? It's mostly a creativity kind of thing. And the day camp program tip of the week is brought to you by my great friends, our great friends at AM Skyer, the leading insurance broker for the finest camps in America. For almost 100 years, AM Skyer has been a strategic partner with summer camps, ready to support any needs arising in PR, legal issues, health, facility, and more. Experience the AM Skyer difference. So I'm going to lead off with one that I'm going to give a shout out to my good friend Jonathan Gold, who is a day camp operator of 3 day camps in New Jersey, but started at a not-for-profit where he had to figure out things based on creativity. And it's Ugly Shorts Day. Okay, with a twist. So we all understand Ugly Shorts Day, Ugly Shirt Day, Ugly Hat Day. We did Ugly Socks Day last year, by the way, very successful. There's a lot of kids with some very creative socks nowadays. All right, so that's a slam dunk. But Ugly Shorts Day, I literally have to go shopping throughout the year to find ugly shorts because I have to win. The reason that I have to win is not because I'm an egocentric bastard. It's because the winner of Ugly Shorts Day, we hoist the shorts up on the flagpole and burn them in front of the whole camp as they cheer happily as they watch. Can you believe Andy's burning his shorts again?
Fantastic.
Right? And by the way, polyester burns way too fast. It's like, it's gone. Right?
So do you always win?
I always win. Well, yeah.
And you're the one who votes. No, there's official voting. You know what? Maybe there's not official voting on this day. It's not like Color War is legit, people. I swear. But Ugly Shorts Day, no. A camp director can call another camp director on it.
It's one of those things, H. You're walking around camp, you go, damn, now that's ugly shorts, right? Like, So you know what? I think one year I actually there was a girl that had uglier shorts than I did. And I said, okay, listen, it's up to you. Do you want your shorts melted in front of everybody on the flagpole? And she said emphatically no. And I said, okay, well then it goes to the runner-up, and that's me. So that was me. But anyway, look, children love fire. Let's cut through the crap. All right. And if you're burning the camp director's shorts, there really is nothing better than that. All right. Big picture. All right. I'm moving on. Who would like to go next?
I'll go.
All right, Sam, go for it.
Okay, so on hot days, fun art project slash activity is if you buy a bunch of the really cheap sponges that are all different colors that are just sponge, and you cut them into strips and you give them hair ties. They can take 4 or 5 sponges, hair tie them in the middle, and you've got a sponge ball. And then you dunk them in the water and you can have sponge ball fights, and it doesn't hurt when they hit you. And you can use them for water dodgeball or whatever you want. So it's your art project and your activity.
Very nice. I love it. Kids love, just like kids love fire, they love anything where water is flying towards them, right? All right, go for it. H?
Happy to. So last year we put in a rock throwing range on our property, and we built it and made it just like archery, except for the targets and what we were throwing and shooting. So all of our safety procedures and strategies and things were similar to what we do at archery. The reason that it came about in the first place is because we have a tremendous amount of gravel and wood chips around our property because we like to cover up the Virginia red clay. And so the dirt and everything else that gets around during our programming by having some covered up with wood chips or gravel. But kids, and stereotypically, specifically little boys, first, second, third graders, we had a tremendous amount of rock throwing growing up as they were coming up. So what we decided to do was have a rock throwing club. And there were certain times when you throw rocks in the rock throwing club. And then it evolved to having a rock throwing range. So that's where we throw rocks and when we throw rocks. And so we put lots of fun things at the range, like a toilet seat or our track vac that sucks up leaves that had been retired, old machinery that makes like a ting sound, when you hit it with rocks. We painted all types of different numbers so that they could get points for hitting different things throughout the range. And there's close targets, there's far targets. It's all very intentional. And we even have activities for the kids to do while they're waiting their turn, if so inclined. So it's been a nice addition.
And it doesn't cost anything.
That's right. It's things we already had.
So we did a similar thing at Liberty Lake a few years ago. And it came from the fact that as the world evolves and kids change, I noticed that my own son did not know how to skip a rock in a lake.
Yeah, sure.
Nor did he know how to climb over a fence, like a 4-foot fence, like things that there was all these little things. So anyway, with the rock thing, I was like, yeah, of course he doesn't, because anytime a kid picks up a rock, he gets yelled at, put that rock down, you're gonna kill someone, right? So I created a range just like H, but my vision was more like the boardwalk firing range where you had the piano player and the bar and all those little things. So I didn't just want it to look like archery. I wanted to put an array of different things for them to hit, not glass things, but anything else. And just line it up like on a bar kind of thing, or hanging from a tree. And it was all different things that made all different sounds too, right? And I put one of my best staff there to make sure that it'd be great. And then once or twice a week, they went down to the lake and skipped rocks also on the lake. So I am all about the rock skipping. Good job.
What a great way to turn something, something negative behavior into something, positive. And just an example of
a whole generation of kids that get yelled at when they touch a rock, Yeah,
it's true. It's true. And it's, something inevitably these kids are going to do. And if what H does is make it into something that, they're going to get an opportunity to do it. It's wonderful. It blows me away, that idea.
Think about it, Ehren, you could do snowballs.
We could, especially today. So for me, I got my idea. I'm keeping in the theme of the open house idea that we were talking about before. So something that we've done that's become almost part of our tradition is doing a Color Wars event for our Camp Color Wars activity with the parents the night before Color Wars starts. So our parents' night coincides with Color Wars, and so basically what we're doing is getting some volunteers ahead of time. We send out an email, we ask if there's any volunteers, and we choose from each team a bunch of representatives, and the parents come ready to compete, and we do it in front of all the parents and all the kids that are visiting us at family night, parents' night, and it starts off the program with an advantage or disadvantage for some of the teams, but we do a different activity every year, and the parents look forward to it. They love showing off for the other parents, and it's simple and easy to incorporate into our program. And kids love it too.
That's awesome. Great job. All righty. Just a question for you, Sam. Do you guys skip rocks on your lake at Crystal Lake?
We usually can't because of public people, and we do have a little pond at one of our other places that we can do that. But at the lake itself, again, we're with the public, and the lifeguards usually yell at them.
Yeah. It's a good way to get rid of the predators, though.
Yeah, there you go.
The intoxicated people.
Yeah.
But, those predators.
Yes.
So I mean, but in regards to this rabbit hole, we're going down a little bit here. I think it's really vital for us as camp people to find these old school things that had been done for generations that are going to the wayside, like the dodo bird, because whatever, because of political correctness, safety, overbearing, parents who are just so worried about things. And Yeah. And again, this is another one of those things that sleepaway camps do it all the time, because nobody really knows what goes on at sleepaway camp, right? At day camp, the kids come home and say, "Oh, we were throwing giant boulders at cars today," and they're like, "Wait," H is like, "No, there was an archery range, like it was monitors, you know." But we need to carry that torch. Like we're the last ones, because they're not doing this in the neighborhoods, you know.
I have a vision of creating being a kid 101 course, you know, where you start you start by hopping over a fence, then you throw some rocks, then you play hockey in the middle of a street, and then you stay out past dark.
Eat some dirt.
Yeah, eat some dirt, get dirty.
Like kick the can.
Well, for those of you who don't know about the book out there, there's a book called The Dangerous Book for Boys, and there's one called The Dangerous Book for Girls. And it was written by a couple of disgruntled parents who really felt like their kids needed to learn these kind of things. And there's all kinds of ways to make things and throw rocks at things and all kinds of stuff like that. Super cool book that came out about 10 years ago. It was a huge hit because it really sort of, you know, parenting was going this way. And then all of a sudden these people are like, wait, we need this old school stuff. So, all right, well, that, I think, wraps it up, folks. So I want to thank our executive producer, the Camp Maverick himself, Mr. Go Camp Pro, Travis Allison, for helping us get the show on the road for you, as well as our guest camp guru, Mr. H. Rothenberg from Triple C Camps.
Thank you for having me.
You're awesome. You could absolutely be one of us any day. And to our generous sponsors, ACA New York, New Jersey, Commercial Recreation Specialists, and AM Skyer for allowing us to bring this podcast to you. Check out our show notes from this and other episodes at daycamppodcast.com. We'll have links to H and to his camp. What do you call your business? Camp counselor? Camp
coach.
Camp coach. All right. Is it campcoach.com?
It is.
Oh, nice URL, baby. How'd you get that?
Thank you.
You had to pay somebody off?
I paid.
Maybe you can. Did you look for coach.camp?
I looked for campcoach.com.
Right. That's great. So anyway, send us feedback, ideas for future pods. And if you don't want to miss an episode of the Day Camp Pod, you should subscribe at iTunes or Stitcher. I heard there's a thing called Stitcher, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And don't forget, show your Day Camp brethren some digital love and give us some nice ratings and reviews, right? And we'll be back really soon with our next topic, Day Camp staffing in 2019. Oy, oy, oy. Everybody's big deal now in this time of the year. So enjoy the winter. Go to some conferences, get some professional development into your brains. Thanks for listening. This has been the Day Camp Pod.